and that would be good for search. But if you want to get more views on that, you might want to do something that I call labeling.
So Jake, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing excellent, Ben. How are you?
I am great. So we were chatting before we got onto this actual call, and so I am really fired up for this conversation. And it's a fun story. Jake runs the best newsletter, in my opinion, for YouTube creators, because we'll get into it for a second. But I found out through this call that I was actually the first ever subscriber. So I want you to tell people, obviously, about your newsletter, and then also how that came to be, because I just found that out too, and I was pretty fired up.
Yeah, so the newsletter, it's just like I was a channel manager at my last job, and my boss like beat in like the importance of writing titles, and I had no idea what I was doing, and I almost got fired because of it. So I made myself learn how to write titles, and then I was like, all right, well, and the way I figured it out was just modeling from what has worked in the past.
Okay.
And I was like, all right, cool, like this is working for us. Will this work for other people? So I DM'd I found people's emails like yours, like I think like 50 people. I'm like, hey, like, what do you think about this? Like, would this work? And the feedback was good. Obviously, you were the very first person that signed up. I was looking at it today. It's on May 3rd. It's of 2021. It's my personal email. May 5th, it's your like personal email. And then, so I was like super excited when you asked me to come on the show. I was like, all right, this is coming full circle.
No kidding. That is awesome. Awesome. So, I was saying to Jake as well that I share his newsletter every time I get it with my internal team too, because we focus so much on YouTube. So, and I can't stress him how important titles are and how slept on they are, which obviously you saw firsthand from a professional experience. But I'd also love to hear a little bit more about like your professional story that got you to working with YouTube. Like, where'd you start out with everything?
Yeah, so I was working at a Facebook ad agency, and it wasn't the best job. I learned a ton, but it was hard. And one of my clients, they said they were hiring like an editor in chief role. So I like kind of emailed him like on the side. I was like, hey, are you guys like, I'm thinking about applying to this job. And he was like, oh, no way. Like, that'd be awesome. And it was crazy because this was like a global agency. Like, I mean, it was remote, and this was like in 2018, I think, like before like remote was cool. My boss was in Arizona. We had like one of our managers in Thailand, and like he was just kind of traveling the world. And then I live in Tampa, Florida, and the people who are our clients, they also live in Tampa, Florida. And it was like a fishing company. It was literally my dream job, and it was awesome. And like I said, I almost got fired because I was running the YouTube channel, and I didn't know what I was doing. My boss was a great copywriter, and he's like, listen, if we can't write a good title, nobody's going to watch our videos. And if no one watches our videos, then we just wasted, a couple $100 sending a fishing coach out there to fish and then having it edited. And then also, not only did we waste money, but we're not getting any benefits. We're not going to sell our programs. We're not going to sell any courses or any fishing rods or reels. So it all starts with you and your title. So you need to write a great title. Otherwise, our business is going to fail, and you're going to get fired. So he really just beat in like the importance of you have to write a good title. And that's like one of the, it's one of the things that you can control. Like you can take the time to come up with a good idea and to come up with a good title. And, just kind of doing research, there's a ton of like available options out there to de-risk the chance that you make kind of a crummy video. There are so many research tools. You can just look. YouTube tells you what works. You can see like the date the video is published from your competitor, and then you can see the views. Like, okay, people like this topic, or people hate this topic. And if you do that research up front, then the odds are that you can make a really good video and not waste money, not waste your time making something that nobody wants to watch.
Yeah, I love a bunch of points you mentioned there. I think the most important one for a lot of people listening to this is that most people that shy away from YouTube, it's because they don't take full understanding to how important the packaging really is, and how, just like you said, for the business, if you don't execute those seemingly small things well, the whole overarching project cannot end up not being successful. And I think that a lot of people harp on thumbnails a lot, but I think a title is almost equally as important, if not more, because of how they feed into each other and how they really work off each other. So through doing all this research, doing a newsletter solely on titles, what makes a good title?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things. Just like as far as like, kind of the backing up the title versus like thumbnail. I think that in education and sometimes stories, the title is more important.
Okay.
I think in entertainment, then the thumbnail is more important because you can kind of show something crazy in your thumbnail, and people are like, hey, I got to see this. And then the title is just kind of maybe supporting or like confirming what you thought. But then in education, like if I'm telling you how to get 10,000 YouTube subscribers in 10 days, like there's not really like any crazy thumbnail idea that you can do to show that like, wow, this is nuts. So you have to deliver that in the title. You have to give them something crazy, like, all right, 10,000 subscribers, which is something that I really want. And then in 10 days, which is like a time frame, like, wow, like how do you do that? I got to click to find out. So I think that titles are definitely more important in the education space when it's harder to show something. But as far as what makes a good title, it really all comes down to getting people to feel some sort of emotion. And usually those emotions are fear, desire, and curiosity. And then it's usually curiosity plus fear or curiosity plus desire. And there's a bunch of different ways to do that. But let's say, if you want to do fear and curiosity, you might say like, the number one thing you're missing to run faster, right? So you have a little bit of like fear, like that's FOMO, right? Like, oh, I'm missing out. Like, what's this thing? And then also you got curiosity there because like you're opening up a loop. So the number one thing you're missing, like you're starting a story, but you're not telling it. So it's okay. I want to run faster. So you actually have desire there as well. What am I missing? So that kind of like creates like a mental itch, and like you need to scratch that itch. So that's curiosity and fear there. Curiosity and desire might be like, this one thing will help you get 10,000 subscribers next week. So you have like this one thing, like, all right, what is that one thing that makes you say, what is that? And that's curiosity. And then you've got desire there, like 10,000 subscribers. So those are the best titles. There's curiosity plus fear or curiosity plus desire.
That's awesome. I got to write down that little framework because sometimes it is that simple of just really playing off of human psychology and leaving an open loop because we love to close those loops. So as someone in the educational niche like myself, I think when I started my channel, I found a lot of success through search. So I've almost reached a place where keywords are where my mind goes. And for a title creator, do you still think that it's worthwhile trying to optimize around keywords, or would you be better served having just a simply captivating title?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's a couple different ways to answer that. So just like the first thing that I was thinking of, there's this fitness channel. I think it's like K Boges, Boges and the letter K. He made a video about the most powerful exercise you're probably not doing. So there's like zero, people probably aren't looking up powerful exercise. So there's zero keywords there. It was about horse stance. So it was about like this, it's just an interesting like way to work out, but, or an interesting exercise. So there's no keywords there. That video did like, when I saw it, I think it was in the millions, and like most of his other videos had done like 30,000 views or 50,000 or 20,000. Wow. So like that video just did bonkers. And so there, in that case, there's no keywords. But oftentimes keywords, like, yes, like for the algorithm, but also just to like tell your audience what it's about. And I think that is more important. People are saying that YouTube is so smart. They know exactly what your video is about, but you want to write your titles for humans, for people. So yes, in that case, keywords, like if I'm telling you like, how to get 100,000 followers, like, is this Twitter followers? Is this Instagram followers? Like, maybe nobody cares because like, yeah, it's a keyword, but also like it's, this is for humans. So you want to tell them, hey, this is about Twitter followers or Instagram followers, whatever it is. So yeah, you definitely need to give your audience enough to know kind of what it's about. Um, but you also you really just want to focus on like, how do you get fear, desire, and curiosity? And that desire like just is telling them, hey, like this is, you're not keyword stuffing, but you're saying this is about what this is about. And that's going to help you attract the right audience. That's going to help increase your click-through rate. And then, YouTube is going to start recommending it on browse and recommended videos. So yeah, I'm not a huge fan of, or not, I don't think it's like really necessary to keyword stuff or anything, but you definitely want to do research and make it clear what your video is about.
Yeah, I think delivering a clear and easy to understand message is obviously crucial. And I love the fact that you said to write a title for humans, because I always have this analogy that I use over and over and over again. And I say that YouTube is the meshing of a computer and a human. So you want to optimize for both. You want to speak to the computer so that you get put in front of the right places on the screen, but you have to remember that a person is the one who ultimately clicks it. So if you don't get both right, you can't get anything right, because they feed off of each other. And I think focusing on humans first is going to allow the algorithm to always go within your favor. So I love the fact that we're on the same wavelength there. And so then as you were writing that down, as you were saying that, I thought of another question, which was, if you start with a title and say you're like me and you've been too focused on keywords, and then later you think, okay, I could capture more attention with a better written title. Is it worth it to try to alter your title and change it?
Yeah, I think so. It also depends on like, define worth it kind of. So I work for a couple clients, a couple channels where I'm like writing their video, or I'm helping optimize their titles. And it might not be worth it to pay me to go spend a lot of time for some channels writing, optimizing their old videos, partly because they're already pretty good. So like, making a video, like making a title slightly better might not be like the best thing. But I think that with my channel, so I have a blog about golden retrievers, and then I've started a YouTube channel for that. And some of my best videos right now, like that are coming in like recommended videos or browse, are videos that are 2 months old. So yeah, in that case, like or even older, like a couple years old. So yeah, so old videos definitely aren't dead. So I would I would do it for sure. If I was confident that that I could write a better title, I would do it. And then also I use TubeBuddy a lot, the A/B testing feature.
Yeah.
And I'm doing that with videos that are a couple months old, just because, if I can get a 10% increase in the click-through rate, then there's a chance that it could help increase the video, the video performance.
Yeah. It's YouTube's a data game. So it's those little changes that can compound and make massive differences, because all this is being collected and tracked. So I love that. Definitely, if you've got some spare time, you may want to go back and see if you can workshop your titles based on what Jake's teaching you in this one. So on that, I think a lot of people, they can overthink titles so much. So what are the biggest mistakes that you see from people who struggle with titles? Like, what do you see over and over and over again?
Yeah. So in the newsletter, I've got what I call the flop of the week. And so usually, so the newsletter breaks down 5 videos that kind of went viral, or that did really well for a channel. And then I think that you can learn a lot from like a failure. So I usually pick a video from one of those channels. I'm not trying to like bash, any of those channels, but like, hey, like, yeah, this video did great, but this video did not. And let's try to see why it did not do as well. And there are 5 mistakes that I see most often. The first one is the wrong topic. So there's two ways to think about the wrong topic. Is one, like, is it a boring like topic? Like, does the topic just like stink? Like, is this not what the audience is interested in? Or is it the wrong topic from you, like from your channel? Like, is this not what your audience wants to hear? So like, let's say you have a channel about social media. You might not want to be talking about like maybe like conversion rate or something like yeah, it's slightly related, but they don't want to hear that from you. They want to hear about that from someone who specializes in that. So so wrong topic is the first one. Too wordy is the next mistake. And that's something a lot of people will kind of like bury their like the main hook. And like we talked about keywords a second ago, and like, yeah, this is like a keyword like for a human because so that they know what it's about. But if you bury the hook or the topic behind a bunch of words, then it could get truncated. So like it just literally might not be on the screen when someone's scanning, or someone might be scanning quickly. They read like the first 3 or 4 words and they're not interested, so they kind of move right on. So you definitely don't want to put too many words. And here's an example: symptoms, causes, and treatment of stomach ulcers you must know. So this is about stomach ulcers, and that's they kind of put that at the very end. I think it'd be better written as stomach ulcer symptoms, causes, and treatments. So it's the same, you're using the same title, but you're leading with the topic in the beginning. So we've got like 45 characters or something before you get to the main topic. So it's kind of buried at the end there. So yeah, okay. So wrong topic. The first one, too wordy. You can also be too specific. This would be good for search videos, like making maybe like a review about a camera. So it might be like Nikon B500 review. That would be very specific, and that would be good for search. But if you want to get more views on that, you might want to do something that I call labeling. So you might want to label it as the best camera for shooting YouTube videos. There was another channel I saw. They did a test with TubeBuddy, and it was how this chef makes $10 million versus how Babish makes $10 million. And since their audience didn't really know who Babish was, that had a much lower click-through rate, because this is more of like business people. Like this isn't
Colin Samir.
No, it was this was Noah Kagan's channel.
Okay.
So they labeled him as this chef versus Babish. So like that was too specific, where you say Babish or Nikon B500, kind of give something a label, like talk about a benefit. So in this case, the Nikon B500, best camera for shooting YouTube videos. So that's one way to not be too specific, is labeling. And the next,
so smart.
Yeah, thank you. The next mistake is too general, and this is kind of the lots of podcasts label like or title their videos this way, where you'll talk about a couple different things, like you'll keyword stuff there. You don't have a focus. So like a little like saying I have is like no focus, no audience. So you want to be focused. You want to tell your audience exactly what this is about. You don't want to be keyword stuffing like we talked about earlier. Another thing is too general, like talking about the camera again, you could say best camera ever, and cool, like yeah, that's the best camera ever, like that's a benefit, sure, but it's just too general, like who cares? So you could make instead you could say best vlogging camera ever. So all right, so we're a little bit less general, but we're also not too specific, but the audience knows what this is about. So okay, so now I understand, like if I'm looking for a vlogging camera, I know, cool, like best vlogging camera is great versus best camera ever, which is just way too vague. The next one is too boring. So if you don't give your audience a reason to care, they're not going to watch. So boring titles, they don't have like a twist or a benefit. They don't open a loop. They don't have any curiosity, any fear or desire. And that this also really comes down to the topic. So an example from a finance channel, how to lower student loan interest rate versus how to become a millionaire in your 20s. So like lowering your student loan interest rate is like, I don't know, not that cool. But how to become a millionaire in your 20s, heck yeah, everybody wants to watch that. So and that's just also comes from like a balance of thinking about your channel strategy. Like, okay, what is my audience searching for? So you it would be best to have kind of a mix of like searchable videos and kind of like, how to become a millionaire in your 20s. So kind of browse and recommended videos. So top 5 mistakes that we just talked about: wrong topic, too wordy, too specific, too general, and too boring.
Boom. That's a masterclass in YouTube titles. And so like, I love to structure things in terms of like frameworks or checklists. So if anybody's listening to this, you should write down all of those as a question. So when you're crafting your titles, just think back to what Jake shared here and ask yourself those questions. Is this too wordy, et cetera, et cetera. And just by doing that, I guarantee your titles will go up dramatically.
Another mistake, and like this isn't exactly about writing titles. This is more about just coming up with topics, but not looking at past data to see what has worked and what hasn't. Like I said earlier, YouTube kind of gives you everything. So you can know. So like if I'm like, the first thing I do before I like write a title is I just like type it in the search bar. And I try to figure out, like I'll type my exact title and like, has anybody made any videos about this? If they did, how did they do relative to the other videos on that channel? Like, you know, if a channel averages 50,000 views per video, and so like going back to the golden retriever thing, if I say, golden retriever potty training mistakes, I'll like search that. I'll put that in the YouTube search bar, and I'll try to see, did anybody else make this video? If not, it's going to be like a judgment call. But if somebody did, then I'll look at their channel and say, okay, like this channel usually gets 50,000 views, but this one about potty training mistakes only got 5,000. And then I'll just like take a second and be like, do I actually want to make this video? Or why did it only get 5,000? Did it have a crummy thumbnail? Was it just a long time ago? Just trying to figure out why it is. And just looking at past data can help you make a bunch of mistakes, and also can help you make a bunch of great decisions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of the answers are already out there. And even if it's not super specific, like the ability to break that down and figure out the why behind the numbers is definitely a huge skill that I think separates great YouTubers from decent YouTubers. But with that, I think a lot of people, they'll hear that. And I think people oftentimes jump to take things as absolutes and facts. So if they have a new idea that, say, someone typed in and they didn't see performance elsewhere and they think it's a great idea, is that video still worth making in your opinion?
Yeah, I think that it goes back to what we talked about earlier: curiosity, fear, and desire.
Okay.
If your video is doing that, if your title is evoking one of those 3 emotions, or maybe 2, then yeah, maybe it's worth trying. So there's a couple, like, you definitely want to be creative. But like, let's say that you're learning currently I'm learning how to play the piano.
Sweet.
And I'm terrible. I'm learning, I'm like only like 10 minutes a day, maybe like four times a week. So it's definitely slow going, but the way that I'm learning is I am copying other songs. I'm not like just trying to like solo or freestyle on the piano. I'm just copying what has worked. And eventually, once I like get good at copying other songs and like I can play, then I'm gonna have a good feel for, okay, like this makes a good song. Like this is how you play a good song on the piano. Then I'll be able to kind of do some stuff on my own. But until I've learned the basics of what makes a good song, then I shouldn't try to write my own song. So with YouTube channels or YouTube titles, until you know the basics of what makes somebody click, then you should really just like probably stick to modeling what works. And so I have a concept called the Model 100. So the Model 100 is 100 channels. It's a list of 100 other channels that make similar content to you, but are in a different industry. And what you want to do with your Model 100 is there's a lot of things you can do, but the best thing you can do for growing on YouTube is to see how do they frame their videos. What videos work for them, and kind of what are they about. So if you have an educational channel, then you would want to in your Model 100 list, you would want to have a bunch of other educational channels. And this is how I started not being terrible at writing YouTube titles. So we were in the fishing industry, and my boss was talking to this guy who had a hunting podcast, and he was like, "Hey man, we did a podcast about hunting gear for newbies. and it was our best podcast of the month. So we were like, okay, cool. We're going to model that. We're going to do that same thing. We're going to do fishing gear for newbies. We did, and that was our best podcast of the month. So thinking about gear for newbies, that was something. You could also do photography gear for newbies. Kind of any, and like that's just one of those frameworks that people like. And it's definitely not copying. We didn't copy their video because we're in a different industry. So you want to find those frameworks, gear for newbies, or another one. So I talked earlier about the number one skill you're missing to make running easier. You could say the number one skill you're missing to make talking to the camera easier. The number one skill you're missing to grow on YouTube, or to get your first 1,000 subscribers. So anything, the number one skill you're missing, that's just a good framework that has a little bit of fear, has a little bit of desire, and has some curiosity. So when you're first learning titles, create your Model 100 list. Only look at videos that have worked and try to find those frameworks and just copy those. And then once you say, all right, I know how to, evoke fear, curiosity, and desire. Now I'm going to create something totally new because I know the basics of what works. And then I think it's okay, like not okay, but then I think it's a good idea for you to start creating new stuff once you know what makes people click.
Yeah. And having that solid base layer of understanding is so huge. And I think that building or looking at the frameworks, even like you said, not even directly in your niche, but getting back to the why, or the psychology behind why somebody with a certain set of interests wanted that and what motivated them to actually take action. Because chances are there's so many other videos that are already like that on YouTube, but people click this one for a specific reason because it successfully achieved evoking that emotion, like you said. So I love that tremendously, because you answered my next question. I was going to say, should people study channels that are outside of their exact niche? And you already answered that. Yes, you should. But I think one question that I get all the time is that, because I say similar things, to study what's out there and see what's working. A lot of time people will jump right to ultra successes. So for example, like say Mr. Beast, and then they'll be like, well, look how he titled his video. How would that work for me? What is your response to people when they come to you with that?
Yeah, I think Emma Chamberlain is like my favorite example of
yes. Yes. Her titles are so obscure. It's insane.
Yeah. So I'm pulling up her channel now. Her titles are boring, I guess.
Yeah.
Like they don't definitely, I guess they evoke emotion a little bit, but I think they only work because she has 11 million subscribers. She's got a really strong brand.
Yes.
So yeah, like one of her videos, it will be okay. Hug season, cooking. This is one word. It's cooking, all lowercase, and it's a picture of her in the kitchen. So yeah, so definitely, if I was a new channel, absolutely would not model Emma Chamberlain. She is only able to get away with those because she has such a strong brand. But I like modeling people who are like a step ahead of you. I think that's good for the most part. I think if you were an educational channel, you could probably, if someone writes killer titles and you're like, man, like every single one of these titles make me want to click, then you could model them. But I think you definitely need to try to figure out why something makes you click, and then say, is this relevant for me? And kind of like almost the foolproof way is, if you have a channel with 500 subscribers, look at channels with 5,000 subscribers. They're not like, mega successful, but they're more successful than you. So yeah, those huge channels, we're not comparing apples to apples. They've got such strong brands, so it's a lot harder. And then also, like the Mr. Beast thing, if you're not in entertainment, then it probably doesn't make sense for you to model him anyway.
Yeah, no, 100%. I love that. It's too true. And I just get that so often. So I wanted to throw that back at you. So on that note, who are some channels, or what are some channels out there that have awesome titles that people should look at and study?
So one of my favorites is Vincent Chan.
Okay.
And he does like kind of like personal finance and like kind of money making space.
Yeah.
Liron Segev writes, I'm pretty sure I'm pronouncing his name right.
Yeah.
He writes great titles. There's like so much kind of curiosity in there. He does a lot of fear. He talks about like warnings and regrets. And so just talking about fear, like fear works so well, but I think that people don't want to be like, oh, that's so clickbaity, or I don't want to be like a fear monger or something. And there's definitely like the dial of clickbait and fear. Like you can turn it all the way up. And like now we're talking about like old BuzzFeed videos, like, 34 things you'll never believe about Ben Levitt. Number 17 was the worst.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you're turning the dial all the way up there. But no, so you like warnings, fears, regrets, mistakes, you're turning it down, but like you're still talking about fear, and that works well. Sorry, I'm just going on a rant here about fear.
Please do.
But I think that works well for a couple of reasons. One is the car crash effect. So like if you're driving on the road and you see a car crash on the side, like everybody slows down and stares. So like we love drama. So just talking about negativity just does really well.
Yeah.
In news, they say if it bleeds, it leads. So yeah, all that fear works well. And then as far as like talking about like education, like talking about regrets and stuff, I think it was in Joe Sugarman's book. He's a copywriter like from the like 70s and 80s. He said fear creates stress and stress creates action. And usually that action is like watching your video to fix that stress. So if you're talking about mistakes, I might get stressed, right? And I'm be like, oh God, like, if you're talking about YouTube mistakes, am I making these? Now I'm stressed. Now I'm going to take an action and I'm going to watch this video to make sure that I'm not making these mistakes. So yeah, fear and negativity, I hate it, but it works. It works really well.
Yeah. I think one of the biggest hacks to understanding human psychology the fastest is just understanding how we evolved from like a species point of view. Like we are survival machines. And so when you understand that, you can really deconstruct seemingly complex things into very, very simple structures and frameworks. Like you just said, I had never heard the car crash example, but that is 100% true. And if you get even deeper to the why behind it, like why are we so fascinated by that? Because we don't want that to happen to us, because we want to survive. So it's like you're instantly so curious to it, because if you don't know that could be you, right? So it's like leveraging that is wildly powerful.
Yeah, and like let's say like we're cavemen, and like, hey Ben, like there's a couple berries over there, like you should go pick them. You might be like, all right, cool, like yeah, maybe I'll do that later. But I'm like, hey Ben, there's a saber-toothed tiger over there. Don't go over there. Like if you don't listen to me, if you don't listen to my warning, you're going to die.
Yes, 100%.
So yeah, I think that we like evolved to listen to fear and warnings and negativity. I think it helps us survive.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And then as a YouTuber or a creator, definitely use that to your advantage. But one thing you said that's really important to note is that there is a fine line where it reaches from being positive use of fear to get a click and evoke action, or clickbait. And so what is that line? Like when do you cross into clickbait territory?
Yeah, I think I think clickbait, if you deliver on your promise, then it's not clickbait. And I heard I think it was Sam Parr from My First Million. He was like, I love clickbait. He's like, heck yeah, like if you were making money, like would you want to like do money bait? Like you're trying to get clicks, like yeah, like if you're trying to make money, like or get customers, like customer bait, money bait, like yes, you want all that. So I don't know, I think that clickbait is interesting. I think that the problem with that is if you're not delivering on the promise that you make in the title and thumbnail. If I tell you how to get 10,000 subscribers in a week, but then I don't really have anything like to back that promise up, or if it was like, oh, this was like a once in a lifetime opportunity, I went viral, I got totally lucky, like yeah, that's clickbait, because not many people can do that. Like it's not even not everybody can do it. It's like only a few people can do it. So yeah, I think it's all about just doing what you say you're going to do. Like it's integrity. And if you can deliver on a promise, and if it sounds wild, people might have some issues, but like you did it. Like,
Yeah.
there's you're not lying. So yeah, I think it's just all about delivering on a promise.
Yeah. No, perfect explanation and answer to that. And I have a personal story to that too. Is so I do a lot of consulting, much like you, in terms of YouTube strategy and things of that nature. And one of my clients slash friends, he's a finance YouTuber as well. And he is so frustrated by the clickbait in his space, or what he calls clickbait. And he's like, oh, like they're spouting BS. Like my content is better. And I said, okay, if that's the case and you truly believe that, don't you owe it to them to be clickbaity? Understanding that if you get them to click your content, it's better than what else is out there. Meaning that that's not clickbait because it's high value. So I think like that is something that a lot of people struggle with, is like, oh, I don't want to be clickbaity, but that's playing the game. That's playing the game of humans. So if your content is valuable, put the clickbait behind it, because you understand that behind that click is a lot of value. I think if you can make that shift, you start to feel a lot less icky about it, and you understand that you're actually doing them a service, getting them to click your content.
Yeah, I have a small channel about golden retrievers, and I made it was like 12 things that golden retrievers hate that humans do. Um, and like I actually got good, I felt a little bit icky, but I got good comments on that. Like people were like happy, like, oh, like a lot of my videos about negativity and like fear, I've actually gotten great comments about it.
Yeah.
Like no one has been like, oh wow, like that's like such a how could you write that title or whatever. I get the most comments on the videos about negativity, and they're often really positive.
Yeah.
Which is kind of surprising. I do have that fear. Like I think everybody has that fear. Like you do feel a little icky. But in the comments, and also like everything good has happened. Like those have higher click-through rates, people are watching them more, they're commenting more, people are just happy to watch those. And I kind of feel like once someone kind of comes in and watches the video, they totally forget about the title. They're all about your content. And they're just like, all right, what can you do for me now? Like, all right, you got me to click, now I'm watching your video, what can you do for me now? Okay, this is good content, I'm enjoying this. I trust you. I like you. I want to buy your stuff. I want to comment. I want to share, whatever it is. But yeah, I mean, you've got to write a good title to get somebody in the door. And then you can show them how good your content is, how trustworthy you are, how much you can help them, etc.
Yeah. I think too often we fail to even pay attention to our own consumption patterns. And one thing I thought of right there as you were saying that was, that is so true. Sometimes I forget what the title was of the video, like halfway into the video, because I'm now involved in the content, I'm committed in the creator, and I'm in it, right? And so if you as the creator know that you're creating a positive transformation, even if you brought them there from a negative or a fear or whatever, then that's still all good, right? At the end of the day, you can still leave someone positively impacted from something that led them there out of fear of negative. So I think that's awesome. I love that so much. So I want to transition now into your specific newsletter a little bit. So I think that building a newsletter is or an email list, et cetera, is one of the most powerful things in the world. So I would love for you to speak to your newsletter specifically, and then why you started one.
Yeah. So, why I started one, I was working a job, and my little side business about golden retrievers was going pretty well, but I hate that I was relying on Google. 90%, sometimes 95% of my traffic is from Google SEO, and I was really hoping to quit my job, even though I loved it. I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to work for myself, but I just couldn't shake the feeling that at any moment Google could update and then like cut my revenue in half. And I got married kind of recently. We just bought a house. I don't want to be like, hey honey, I quit my job, and then like a month later, hey honey, now we're making half as much because Google decided to make a little change. So that was like one of the biggest things, is how can I diversify? And also, I love marketing. I like golden retrievers. I love golden retrievers. I've got one, and he's amazing. But I'm not a trainer, so I hired a trainer to do a lot of the writing. So I'm kind of just more of like a business owner operator there.
Mm-hmm.
But I love marketing and I wanted to start something in the marketing space. And I was like, all right, I'm not going to do anything that I'm relying on Google for. And then I heard an idea about newsletters. And I was like, man, I would love to do a newsletter. With newsletters, I feel like they're hard work to grow, but once you have them, then you have them. I mean, you've been on my newsletter for almost a year now. So it's not like you read one of my articles thanks to Google and then you left. So yeah, so I wanted a newsletter. I wanted to do something in marketing. And then I also I told the story earlier about how I kind of stumbled into creator hooks. And that's just like how it's something that I wish I had when I was first starting out. We talked a lot about modeling today, and like the newsletter just says, hey, here are 5 videos that you could model. Just like kind of making it easy for you. I'm like sending them straight to your inbox so you don't have to come up with ideas. But yeah, and the newsletter has been awesome. I'm finally catching some steam. It took me a long time to grow. I went from 0 to 800 in, May to beginning of March. And then I've like tripled since then. So I'm almost at 3,000, and that's only been like a month, in 1 month. So,
wow.
So it's definitely one of those things where like you put in like a ton of work for nothing. And then like, oh, finally, like you start to get some momentum.
Yeah.
And I'll have those subscribers hopefully for a long time.
Exactly. I think that's the most important thing when it comes to newsletters, that it's one of the very few channels where you actually own the conversation and you own the relationship with your audience, which as someone who preaches social, like I do, even I say, you got to do everything you can to own that relationship, because like you said, you are very much tied to that platform that you don't own. It's like building real estate on somebody else's land. It's a very sketchy thing to do. You don't want to do it. So, what methods of traffic have you used to grow that newsletter?
Yeah. So like what you just said, like you want to, like you're a social guy, but you want to own your, own your land. The only way that you kind of earn your land is through social. Like, that's how I've gotten that's how I've tripled subscribers in the last month, is because of social. So yeah, so there's definitely a need for both.
Okay.
Social is is bringing all my traffic. I'm not doing any paid. I'm not doing anything else. It's getting on podcasts with you and some other stuff. But the main social channel that I am right now is on Twitter. I need to start a YouTube channel, obviously, because like that's what I'm talking about. But Twitter is just so much easier. I'm definitely not in front of the camera person.
Okay.
I like talking with you is great. I've tried it for some reason. Like when I get in front of the camera, it just like I freeze up. I'm definitely a behind the scenes guy, but so I'm like, all right, what can I do? I need to do something. So I started writing on Twitter because I'm kind of a writer first, and that has been great. Twitter threads have been awesome. The people that I've met have been insane. So many opportunities through there.
Yeah, Twitter is awesome. If you're listening to this and you're not on Twitter yet, do it. It's like the biggest slept on business hack I think there is out there, because the people you can get access to through Twitter is just absolutely bananas. It's nuts. So specifically, first of all, you should go follow both myself and Jake on Twitter. It'll be linked in the show notes of this episode. But for anybody who hasn't yet subscribed to Creator Hooks, can you give us like the few second sell as to why they should and how they can access it?
Yeah, so it's creatorhooks.com. And it gives you 5 video ideas every week. It also shows you why they work. And then it has one video why it didn't work. Like I said, we talked a lot about modeling. This kind of saves you the research or the time from, okay, let me go try to find my model 100. Like I'm just doing it for you. And I'm just going to break down the videos. Hey, like this is how they used fear. This is how they used curiosity. They used a time frame here. They used authority or timeliness. So I'm going to explain to you why something worked. So like we talked about earlier, you wanted model and like it's like straight up copy the examples in the newsletter. A lot of people have told me that it's doubled their kind of like their baseline for views, which I'm super excited about and they're super excited about. So just model, and then once you figure out what makes people click, and I will explain it to you every week, then you can start making some original content there.
Awesome. Yeah. So if that doesn't sell you, maybe this will. As the first ever Creator Hooks subscriber, I can say that it is well worth the subscription. And I subscribe to a lot of newsletters, but this is one of the few that I actually read whenever it comes in. So I love it, getting it every single week. You will too. So go to creatorhooks.com and subscribe to that and thank me later. Your YouTube views will thank us later too. Jake, was there anything else that you wanted to throw out there or mention today? Because I had an awesome time chatting with you, man.
No, I don't think so. I think it's just model what works. It's out there. Good. Like look at when video was published. Look at how many views it has. Look at how many views it has compared to others. Look outside of your industry and just try to find those frameworks that work. YouTube literally gives all of it to you.
Yeah, the tools are out there. The answers are out there. It's just on you to go find them. Well, thank you so much, Jake. I appreciate you big time. Everyone who's listening to this or watching this, if you're on YouTube, all the links are down below. Go check out all of Jake's stuff. And once you launch that YouTube channel, definitely let us know because I'll be one of the first subscribers there too.
I will.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jake.
Thank you, Ben.